our budget. The good news is our budget will remain the same. It was level funding. But within each coalition, we now have to spend 12% more of our budget on direct child care cost. So that's a good thing. Let's get more children into care.
Right.
That's positive. We estimate here that'll probably be another 300 children in care. So half of our wait list will be affected by that.
Wonderful.
The downside is they removed the funding and the local innovation, if you will, to ensure that those child care providers are providing quality child care. So we no longer can monitor providers more quality, in addition, they gave us many restrictions on how we can support the child care providers for quality. Removed a lot of local innovation for that.
Why? The question that comes to mind is just why? Why did they do that? Were they trying to be just more consistent statewide, or?
That is part of it. That is a message we heard, is consistency statewide. I will tell you that for the past 4 or 5 years, we have been working against, unfortunately, a certain provider advocacy group that would like us to not be in their business. They would like to receive the federal and state dollars to serve children without our restrictions placed upon them. So they succeeded this year. They succeeded in getting the ear of legislators and making that happen this year.
And what it was that you had in place, I would think, guaranteed to the extent possible in terms of monitoring that as you were saying, quality services were being provided.
Right. We get confused a lot of times with DCF licensing of child care providers, and DCF licensing will tell you they go out and ensure a business can operate, minimum standards to open a business.
Right.
And they are saddened with us that then the next level, which we provide, ensuring higher quality, was cut also.
So it's not just a babysitting service.
Correct. That's right. So, we're remaining positive locally, and our board met last Friday. They meet again next month to regroup. Let's figure out how can we use now the smaller amount of dollars. We have a smart board, so we will figure out how to voluntarily get providers to work with us. And I want to say too, there's a lot of times people have the misconception that all the child care providers are corrupt. They must be out there for the money. And I just like saying, are you kidding me? Child care is not the way to go to be in it for the money.
With all the regulations and everything else that's in place. I
So
mean, you gotta have almost a calling for that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And we do. And providers have worked with us for years. So we feel like we can still make a difference, partnering with them, making a difference for the children they serve. Our other focus will be on the parents. We need parents to choose childcare wisely. We see typically what parents choose is the place closest to them, the place that's cheaper. And for low-income parents, that almost becomes a necessity.
Yeah.
Lack of transportation, they have to go somewhere close to them. Lack of income, they have to choose a place that's affordable. So we're trying to tackle that as well. On both sides. So those providers that are in those areas of low-income families, we got to help them. Parents will choose them. But trying to get parents to understand what quality looks like. It may not be the place they're used to sending their child. We believe what is the saying? If you know better, you do better. So we believe parents want to know more. So we're working creatively.
And I agree with you, because parents really and truly do want the best for their child. They really want, if I could choose between a place that's just going to babysit and a place where my child is actually going to go there and maybe learn the letters and learn how to read a little bit and get really prepared for higher education, and for these kids, we're talking, first grade, second grade, we're not just talking college and the like, then I think they would choose that, but you're right, those other two ingredients in terms of affordability and it being convenient
That's right.
in some form or fashion is important too. But no parent wants to leave their child at a place that is not safe,
That's right.
where they have to worry the whole day that they're working about the quality of care that the child is receiving.
Laura's very gracious, very diplomatic, and sitting here listening to how wonderfully you were able to explain something that's very complex. Now, on the other side of the thing she didn't say is I work closely with the Children's Services Councils of the State Association and some of these other groups that are involved. This was a highly contentious, very difficult debate. There were 4 very egregious bills out there. I mean, that would have just taken the whole thing apart. And you're correct in not trying to name any, because within those groups there's good people, but there was a force, if you will, that was determined to just totally erode the VPK, everything that we know that is right. And there were 3 things that we wanted to make sure that we're able to keep in place: the screening, the assessment, and the curriculum. That survived. So there are some things that are not really up to the standards, as Lara said, but I'm going to tell you, as a community advocate for a long time, I'm very grateful for the young leadership that we have, Lara and many others in our community, that are going to make sure to nurture and to move, but then to use the voice of advocates, oftentimes when they can, because they're taking federal, state dollars. And guess what? You have to be careful, but when your hands aren't tied to that money, and that's where I think the partnership comes in. But I just want to applaud her in that. And is there anything that we can educate the people in our community about?
Well, if I can transition to VPK for a minute, voluntary pre-kindergarten, because we serve.
And a lot of people like myself, we see the VPK signs, and I don't think most people even know what they are. They just see the signs out there,
Well, what I just had talked about was the school readiness funding stream, if you will, and that's for parents of low income. The voluntary pre-kindergarten was a voter measure put in place 2005.
Amendment that we passed, constitutional amendment.
All Florida residents are eligible, I didn't say that right, 4-year-olds in Florida are eligible for this program regardless of their income. They have to be 4 by September 1st of the year they wish to attend, with the design being, let's get our hands on those kids before they get to kindergarten, they get right before kindergarten. So VPK has been successful. The research has shown children who attend VPK are more ready than children who don't attend VPK. Locally, we have about 75 to 80% of our 4-year-old population does attend a VPK program. So this year, again, funding was level. It was good news. They will increase funding even for increased enrollment. But the base student allocation is level. That's good because it has gone down the past few years. So when a child care provider gets paid for VPK has gone down per child. This year it finally held steady. What I would ask, when you ask can the community do anything or be educated on something, a big issue for us is that child pre and post assessment. So it is a way for providers to see, are the children in my care, am I doing right by the children I'm serving? So if I give a child a pre-assessment beginning of the school year and see, oh my gosh, they're really lacking in their social emotional development. I need to do more activities and interactions with them to boost that. So child pre and post is designed to inform the teacher's instruction. In VPK, what they do, and we back up, every child when they go to kindergarten, in the first 30 days of kindergarten, receives an assessment by their kindergarten teacher to see if they're ready for kindergarten. And then Florida Department of Education publishes those rates for Florida. So how ready are Florida's children for kindergarten? What they have now done with the existence of VPK is tied the children's score from the kindergarten screener back to the VPK program they attended. And then that VPK provider gets a rate, a readiness rate. So how well did that VPK provider do preparing those children for kindergarten? Sounds good. Problem is, many of our providers are being harmed by this rate. I will use Head Start as an example. Head Start participates in VPK, and Head Start serves our lowest income families. Often are families who are English is their second language. Those children may not be quote unquote ready for kindergarten because they've had to come from such a far place.
Right.
But they've made extreme progress in their VPK year. And the way this is designed does not give that provider credit for the progress. If they didn't meet that benchmark ready for kindergarten, the provider is punished. And after 3 years, that provider would not be able to serve VPK, would not be able to offer VPK any longer.
Oh,
So we've been pushing since the inception of VPK to change that. Allow us to have a pre and a post in VPK that determines the provider's readiness.
right.
So if the community, I just want the community to be aware of that. We need quality VPK providers, and that scoring system is very flawed.
Is the school system still providing?
Yes, school.
So we still, at first they weren't, but they were.
School system, yeah, school, VPK is open to private providers to offer it, as well as the school district is mandated to offer it in the summer and optional for them to offer it during the school year. But now they do offer school year.
See how these all have to fit together.
Oh,
in
absolutely.
the spirit of cooperation and it.
And you know, Linda, with what I was saying about the healthcare summit, all of this fits together and works together because to the extent that these young people, because the VPK is voluntary.
Yes, it is.
Yes, okay. To the extent that the parents, you know, maybe don't volunteer, don't get their children involved in this, and I call it like a primer education tool or opportunity for these young, really young babies, to give them the opportunity to start to get the mindset that education is important, that I enjoy education, that I enjoy learning.
Right.
Because until that's ingrained in them, and I've heard this quote that actually it's between that 1 to 4 years old that you have the opportunity to actually get that ingrained.
That's
And if you miss that opportunity, actually they said this at the health summit, that when you miss that opportunity, the chances of that you know, it almost makes you want to not say it, but it's true, statistics show it, that the opportunities of that child are stifled, that is stifled because what they have shown is that as you go later in the years, you're talking about the greater chance of dropout, not finishing high school, never going to college, not getting a good job, being unemployed, being poor, being this, being that. You really are parents, if you don't get your kids involved in VPK, you really are stifling their opportunity. And as these young people are stifled, our families are stifled and our communities are stifled from being healthy and growing and developing as they need to be, to have this great quality of life that we all strive for and that we all deserve. But it starts early. It starts early.
And the fact in the last 10 years, there's a plethora of neuroscience and research and data to justify this. So this is why you've seen this major paradigm shift to investing in the first 5 years. Better than that, investing in a healthy pregnancy and a healthy birth outcome. And I've been promoting that forever, since I know Lawton Childs was governor. But and that is so essential now that we've got the knowledge base to know that. However, there are some external factors oftentimes in a family. And we talked about the poverty rate. We've talked about all of these indicators that adversely affect that opportunity. That doesn't mean you have to keep trying, and you must keep trying.
Absolutely.
And you go back to the screening. It's all, and I guess if I wanted to think of an educational moment, and the one is now, is that this community, it's incumbent upon us to realize that those individual programs must and should all work together from a holistic perspective and not in an independent one to give me mine, I need mine, because you get it perfectly. It's that whole child, It's that whole healthy baby.
Uh-huh.
It is that getting that screening. I talked about Part C and the fact that we need the early steps. If we found a baby that has some delays, let's begin to work on them now. Better than that if we find a mother who doesn't understand about being healthy during pregnancy. So yes, it's just that we need to share more